A pleasant Friday afternoon to you, Guyana. Welcome to another program of Facing the Nation with the leader of the opposition. I am your host, Annette Ferguson. It is Friday, October 1st, 2021. It's the second month in the last quarter of 2021. And I just want to say to many of you out there who are yet to take your vaccine, you have a decision to make, and I trust that you will make the right choice in getting vaccinated so that your life and that of your loved ones can be saved. That being said, on today's program, myself and guests, we will be discussing a whole lot of topical issues, and then we will narrow it to her responsibility as a member of Parliament on in the opposition, and who has responsibility for the East Bank corridor. So joining in the conversation with me is no other than the Honorable Miss Nima Flue-Bess, who is one of the new faces representing a Partnership for National Unity and the Alliance for Change in the National Assembly in the 12th Parliament. As I said earlier, her portfolio as a member of Parliament is that she is responsible for the East Bank Demerara. Honorable Nima Flue-Bess, a pleasant afternoon and welcome to Facing the Nation.
A pleasant afternoon to you, my comrade, and a pleasant afternoon to all of Guyana. It's a privilege for me to be here on this program this Friday afternoon to share with you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Flue-Bess. Well, Comrade Flue-Bess, I know that you are one of the, youngest and newest faces in the National Assembly representing a Partnership for National Unity. Can you share briefly with our viewers and listeners who is Nima Flue-Bess and why did you, get involved in mainstream politics?
Thank you. I am a teacher by profession.
Mm-hmm.
I am a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I am a believer
Mm-hmm.
in the church. I'm a community activist. When you think about all of that, my area of teaching is sports and sociology.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of persons will know me as Miss Flue or Teacher Nima because of the number of years I've been in the profession. My involvement in politics started at the community level. I can tell you I have sat through the 23 years under the last PPPC administration and saw what had happened to my community in Mocha Arcadia, where we had everything destroyed. You had no good roads, you had no recreational space and all of that. And I sat down as an individual and recognized that, sitting on the sideline and just making statements and assumptions cannot really be impactful.
Yes.
And so I started out first by writing letters to the NDC to ask questions. And when I didn't get the answers I needed, I started to attend the council meetings, sit in, listen to what's going on, and then start interacting with the residents about these issues and how we can actually help to make things better in our community. Because if you have, at the time, the NDC and nothing is happening, it means that the people have to get up and make things happen.
Yes.
And so from that time, that's where I began to be involved in politics. And then thankfully we had local government elections. I was a part of the council. I served as the deputy vice chair for the council.
Wow.
I was on the social committee because I'm very much into social activities. And so I was involved there at the council level, but also in my church, I was very active in doing activities for young people and children and the elderly, and I still do that today, even though I'm a sitting member of parliament, because it's still my passion.
Exactly. Well, as believers, we would normally say, we're Christians before politicians,
Yes.
Yes. So you want to continue, or that's
Well,
it?
I would want to say to a person who might be looking at us today, you might be on the sideline speaking, talking, making your criticism and all of that, but when you see you get involved,
Yes.
you get active, all the criticism and all the things you will say, you would recognize that it takes us working collectively
Exactly.
to do so. And so I want to call on persons who are listening us today, get involved. Get involved at your community level. You will make a difference.
Yeah, and I fully endorsed your position, making the appeal to young people to get involved in decision making. It is your constitutional right, because Article 13 of the Constitution speaks to the participation or the involvement of citizens, in relation to decision making in our nation. So as a citizen, it is your constitutional right to get involved in decision making. And I want to join my colleague here in making that appeal to you. Just don't sit on the outside or sit on the fences condemning those who are trying to make an impact and give of their human services towards the development of Guyana. You too can play your role. But Comrade Flue-Bess, in your opening remark, you made reference to you being a counselor at the local government elections. Can you say whether it was in the 2016 or the 2018 local government elections? Because mind you, it was the then APNU AFC government that would have made local government possible after the May 2015 elections.
It was in the 2016 local government elections that I was elected as a councillor and started to serve, and that's why I said I was thankful when the coalition actually allowed that process to come back on stream, and people are able to manage the affairs of their community and be there. I'm very passionate about persons managing the affairs of the community. It's difficult when you see someone come from outside to make a decision for a community that they're not living in.
Exactly.
They have no idea about the cultural existence or impact that is taking place. They're assuming. They don't have an idea about the full needs of the people. You come and do a needs assessment. It's different to a person who's actually living, dwelling, mingling, interacting with the people there. You have a different feel, a different understanding of that existing need of the community. And so local government and local governance is very, very critical when we think about community development and community enhancement. I believe the local government system is the best when it comes to managing and improving and enhancing your community. I can give you a quick example. When I was elected to my council, one of the things we recognize is that we need to do things for the young people, the children. And so to help the children in their reading, to help them in their writing, our NDC at Mocha Arcadia would have started a spelling bee competition annually. So the children had something to look forward to. Then we introduced essay competition writing. And our essay competition writing was based on things that has to do with the village. So you get the young people now involved. They have to go and research, interact with the elderly, get information that is needed so that they can put together their essays. And that helps them to have that patriotic feeling, that sense of belonging to the community, because an opportunity is provided for them to interact, for them to gather information, and for them to present it. Now, what they would have done then, the next generation will come up and they will see those little stories, they will read them, they will hear about them, and that will help to keep the history of your community alive. And also in doing that, it is helping to enhance that individual in their skills of reading and writing.
Good,
And that's
good.
very simple.
Yes, yeah. And you know, indeed, local governance is critical, sorry, and it's also vital, right? It's a vital organ towards the development of any, you know, community or region or area. Because the Constitution, again, you know, we have to go back to what the laws of Guyana so prescribe. The Constitution, Article 73, 71, you know, speaks to the whole issue of local governance. And as you rightfully said, I mean, many young people, because the last local government elections under the PPP, because I went to school under the PPP literally, so I had no sense. It's until, you know, you're mature and you get a full understanding what local government elections is all about, then, you know, you're able to get involved. But I'm happy that, you know, at the local level, you were able to serve not only your people, but also to bring development and make an impact in the lives of our young people. But, Comrade Flue-Bess, I know you took the oath of office, you took the oath as a member of parliament in September of 2020. So, you know, it's already a year since you're a serving member of parliament. So can you share, you know, what was your feelings, you know, how you feel serving as a member of parliament, and, you know, how you find it thus far?
Well, for the year I've served thus far as a member of parliament, I can tell you the first day when I took the oath of office, the words of my family, my grandfather and my parents and so forth, they always spoke positively into my life.
Yes.
They knew that I would become something great. And the elders in my community play a key role in that, also in nurturing me.
Yes.
And helping me to understand the importance of community involvement and being a part of community development. And so when I went to the parliament to take that oath of office, I had all of that with me.
Yes.
I knew that they were supporting me. I also knew that my colleagues at work would be supporting me, because I'm always very vocal
Yes.
when it comes to issues of representing teachers as well as students. So when I was elected, I knew that, you know, the support is there. After taking the oath of office, I stand very firmly on what I said, that I will serve the people without affection and ill will.
Yes.
I knew, and I'm always bearing in mind, that I was elected to serve all people. And so, being the rep for East Bank of Demerara, I do not serve looking at if you are a PPP person or if you're APNU or AFC. I was elected to serve. So when I visit a community, I would interact with everybody. I would look at the issue at hand, and I will deal with the issue at hand, because I know that's my responsibility.
Yes.
I also know that whenever I speak, that I have to speak on behalf of everyone. And that I hold very dearly in my heart. And the people on the East Bank, those I visited, can tell you, since I've been in office, I've visited all the communities along the East Bank corridor, from Eccles to Mary. Even if it's one or two streets I would have walked through.
Yes.
I set an agenda actually, after taking the oath of office, to interact and visit with these communities. I recently went up to the Demerara River to check on those communities along there, and I can tell you the people are very receptive.
Yes.
There are only about a few, or maybe very few, communities that I have to visit on the Linden-Suicide Highway. But I would have visited, take pictures, listen to residents, what are some of their pressing concerns, their pressing needs, issues that are affecting them, and try very much to reach out to the relevant agencies to ensure that the needs of these people are met.
Exactly.
I would have also visited Eccles NDC meeting already, Mocha Arcadia NDC meeting, Herstelling NDC meeting. I didn't get to go to Grove because for some reason the timing and keep shifting, but that's on my agenda. I went to Craig Caledonia, good success, NDC meeting. I've been to Soesdijk NDC meeting. I didn't get to sit officially yet at the Kuru NDC meeting and Yarra Cabral NDC meeting, but what I can tell you, I've been interacting with councillors there, keeping in touch with what's happening and in tune with what's happening. So my immediate visit to NDCs will be Grove, Diamond or Sterling, and the 2 on the highway.
Good.
That will be my starting point in this second year. And I can say to my viewers, you have a responsibility to attend your meetings. Don't allow your councils to tell you that you cannot attend meetings. Because I've seen that. They tell the residents, you know the meeting, you cannot attend the meeting. What I can say to you is that you cannot speak in the meeting.
Yes.
Unless there's a extension of the standing order for them to be allowed to do so.
Yes.
Other than that, you attend the meeting, listen to what's happening, take your notes. One of the issues I have is that persons would complain about a drain not being clean. They would continue about the road, they would complain that the road was not fixed. The drains were not clean and all of that. And then you ask, did anyone ever attend the council meeting to bring this issue up? No. No MP. Have you ever written a letter to the NDC concerning this particular issue? No MP. All right. So, have you ever engaged your councillor for the area? Because each area got a councillor that is responsible. No MP. So how did you expect these people to recognize that your drain is an issue, the road is an issue, your water is an issue, if you sat down quietly and said absolutely nothing?
Yes.
Now, they would expect that as a member of parliament, you wave a magic wand and things will happen. But for us, we have to ensure that when you're going to represent, you have something to work with.
Exactly.
And so you have to tell them, you know, you have to write a letter, you should attend the meeting, you should raise these issues. Because if you don't do that, then the NDC can say they don't know, even though you have councillors for all the areas. And that would have been the most challenging thing for me as a member of parliament.
Yes.
Because when you ask for this paper trail or follow-up from the residents about what is happening in the area, they don't have anything. And again, I'm going to plead with our viewers. If you're in the community, you have a responsibility to be involved. Everybody in the community don't have to attend the meeting. You could decide, okay, we're living on Callaloo Street, if that's the name of your street, and today we will dominate Baker to go to the meeting for this month.
Yes.
Because NDC meetings are usually held once a month. And so Baker can go to the meeting, come back and say, you know, this was discussed at the NDC meeting. And you know, we didn't know that. And you work it out. And if you do that, again, it's working together, it's working collaboratively to make things happen. If you do that, it won't become my burden alone, or this person burden alone. It becomes all of our concern, our burden, and so we share it. And so you attend the meeting, you get the information, you make your voices heard, and yes, it would help to make our MP work much easier because you have paper trail and documents and so forth.
Exactly. Good, good. Thank you very much, Comrade Flue-Bess. But before I move on to my other area of focus, you know, you said something earlier about, you know, you representing people. You know, you visit areas, listen from the people. It is not only your representation of you, but at the same time, what you're doing there is you're building relationship, which is very, very critical. Because I guess, you know, when anything happens in that particular community, you know, residents must not be fearful, but they must be bold enough to call upon their MP to reach out, you know, to say, well, hey, this is what is happening in Callaloo Street area. So building that relationship will go a far way. And you know, as a teacher, you know, you have relationship between pupil, teacher or student teacher relationship, and people, you know, once you have a sound relationship and a well-grounded relationship with each other, believe you me, you will get the full support. The other thing I want to discuss with you is your constituency.
Okay.
Because since you have responsibility for the East Bank corridor, many of our viewers are not aware, where your boundary of responsibility lies. Because East Bank, we know for a fact, begins from Eccles, way up the East Bank corridor. So you will know more than many of us who are not familiar with the area on the East Bank corridor. So do you mind sharing with our viewers where your boundary starts and where it ends?
Okay. My boundary starts at Eccles and ends at Moblisso on the Suze-Linden Highway. And there's quite a number of communities
yes, indeed.
Along the way. But like I said, I would have visited most of them. Some of them are small, some are large.
Yes.
And I've tried to have contact with contact in every community. So when something happens, they're able to send videos, send a message. My contact is always, my number is always available for them to send the information, and I will work on it from my end. However, if the situation requires me to go, I make the sacrifice to be there to see what's happening. For example, they had an issue with water in Yarcabro. For a while, the persons at the back weren't getting water over a month. And so when I started to find out what's happening, Guy seems not to have an answer. The persons there would have already went in, made their reports, did the follow-up and nothing, so they contacted me. And then I started to do some further investigation on the matter, and then it was discovered from the residents there of the opinion that somebody was actually tampering with some valve. So less water was going to one section of the community as against another. Thus far, I think they'll be getting water, but not as often. And Guy seems to be a real sore point in many communities. In my community of itself, Mocha Arcade, got issues with water, and several other communities along the East Bank seems to be having a lot of water problems with the GWI. And when you call to find out, oh, I'm not in that area anymore, MP, I've been transferred to a new area. And so you're wondering who is now in charge of the area. And you're left to wonder what is really happening in terms of who you're really supposed to contact, because I try to contact if it's the area manager or whoever. Because you call the office, sometimes you call, you don't get through or something like that. So you try to get as many contacts as possible where you could call to find out and engage. And you find it to be very challenging. We got issues with works that are currently being done on the East Bank. I was in Tumeri. The other day I saw a road is being done. Strangely enough, with cement. I was trying to figure out what kind of road is being built with this cement and this thing happening.
Cement?
Yes.
Cement road?
In Tumeri. So I was wondering, I have never seen it for people to traverse. So I'm watching the project. I didn't go back recently, but I plan to go back to see what the finished product would look like. And then you have the issue with the road at Covent Garden, where the residents highlighted they had dug up the area over a month. Nothing was happening. And when I put it on my page, things started happening up here as I was updated that work is still going on. And then you got the roads in my community that's being done in other communities. But this piecemeal thing, the same thing at Kurukuru Road being done, and it starts and then complete. And then when you engage the overseers and the persons, they tell you things like, we don't know anything about the project.
And
it's Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Public Works.
Public Works.
Good. They're responsible. When you call, oh, I'm not the engineer for the area anymore.
Wow.
So you have to call somebody else to get the information. So you're going through this whole process of calling and calling and trying to get in touch and trying to get the information. Now, if this administration wants to talk about transparency and actually serving the interests of our people, you got to do a project, discuss with the residents, this is the time span for the project, this is what is expected to happen, and all of that. And also inform the relevant authorities, because some of the NDC just claim that they don't know. You can't blame them if they don't know.
Yeah.
And pass the information out. You got MPs in the area, send out the information so that you will know, okay, this engineer is responsible for this project in the area. If you have any issue, feel free to call. That's it. But why is it that we have to go through this going around, come around, you call, today you get somebody to talk to them, tomorrow you call them, they're not responsible anymore. And so these are some, again, those are some of the challenges you face as a member of parliament when you want to represent the people and their interests.
You know, Nima and viewers will agree with me that Guyana has retrogressed since August 2020. I recall when we were in government and projects being done in community, we had a policy, though not written, but there was an unwritten policy where the technical officers were told any project to be done in regions, in communities, the regional officials must be made aware. The NDC, the residents, they too must be aware as to what is happening. The specification, the cost, that information must be provided to the residents. So when things not going right, you know, if the road's supposed to be 4 inches and you're getting a 1.5 inch road, the residents, they are the watchdogs in the community, and they must be able to say, well, here, you're giving us shoddy work, you're giving us substandard work, because this is what the specification is saying. How is 4 inch and you know giving us 1.5 inches of road, you know? And I want to remind our viewers and listeners, there are 3 tiers of governance. You have central government, where, you know, the president and all the ministers, and, you know, our responsibility is for mega projects, you know, bilateral arrangements and all manner of things. Then you have the regional, which is headed by a regional chairman. And in the regions, they too have, you know, budgets to cater for public works, health, education, agriculture, apart from, you know, the policy or the administration. And we know that it is their responsibility at the regional level to deal with, you know, roads in the communities and stuff like that, working in conjunction with the NDC, because, you know, the capacity of the NDC will not be there. So you need the NDC would need the support from central government and also from the regional administration. And the last tier of governance is the NDC. They collect taxes, rates and taxes. I think, you know, probably for burial grounds, you got we call it, you know, garbage collections and all kind of things. So it is their responsibility to see that these services are done. And also, I think public health, they might play a role in public health and addressing issues where infrastructure is concerned in communities. They deal specifically with the inner roads in the communities. But the whole system, Nima, the whole system, whether from central, regional, and at the local government level, it's in a mess. It is in a mess, because we see, since this administration came into government, it's all about control, absolute control. So the NDCs and the municipalities, they're not, you know, given that laxity to, you know, govern on their own and make decisions with the involvement of the minister playing a role. Nima, I now want to turn our attention to COVID. COVID, and I know for a fact that you have been working on the ground. Apart from you working on the ground in your various constituencies, You host a program every Saturday morning from 11 viewers, from 11 to about 11:30, 12 o'clock latest, called The People's Representative. So, you know, it's being streamed live on Facebook. So I encourage you to follow our sister on that platform. But COVID, what reception or feedback have you been receiving from persons in your community or within these communities? Because, you know, many persons are yet to be vaccinated and they have, you know, concerns. So I don't know, you know, during your walkthrough, whether, you know, persons would have raised this issue regarding the vaccination with you.
Yes, COVID is real. And we know that when we see what's happening around us, especially in our country, there's so much more that is left to be desired. We recognize that whatever plan or whatever program the administration is using, it's not working. Because you're not seeing a decrease in numbers, you're seeing an increase in numbers.
Exactly.
And if you're talking about good leadership, if you recognize that you're pouring water in a bucket and all the water coming out, you would stop pouring the water in the bucket, raise up the bucket to see if something is happening. What is happening to get that sorted out? What we've been experiencing with this administration for the last year and COVID, I think they've been doing a test run, I would want to say. And so because of that, it brings a lot of fear in the hearts of the people. Under the coalition government, we used to have these daily updates where you hear from the Minister of Health and so forth and the team that would give you these updates. I think that brought confidence to the population because you could watch something and you know what's going on. I don't think we have any live updates like that happening. So you're not sure if the information you're getting is accurate. And so for me, I go online and I check to see what CDC would put out, the different embassies would put out the advisory and so, because I am not confident that the information being given is quite accurate. That's the first thing. And that's not only my view, but that's the view of a lot of persons that I would have interacted with.
Yeah.
The vaccination drive that we're on in Guyana, though it may appear to be good, I still believe the administration should have rolled out an education campaign.
Yes.
To the population, informing people about the types of vaccine, what are the effects and side effects of each vaccine. They can't tell people that just take a vaccine and you don't have adequate information for them. I checked up to this morning before I came out. You check the Ministry of Health website. The only vaccine they have information on is the AstraZeneca. What happened to all the rest of the sharing? There's no other information. I checked it up to this morning, and week after week on my show, I keep saying, if the Ministry of Health is running the health system in Guyana, regardless if you could go online and find all the other information, I personally believe that the website for Ministry of Health should have all the information about all the vaccines they're sharing, the effects and side effects. Don't tell people that the vaccine ain't got no effects. Everything they use got consequences. So you want to know what are the effects and the side effects of the vaccine. That will help to build people's confidence and want people to take the vaccine. This morning I checked, CDC actually got a guideline that speaks to distribution of the vaccine, and I was trying to review in my mind if that is what's being done here. I don't think so. Because one, they look at reviewing and assessing the patient's immunization history. What process do we have that does that? Do you have a cold? No. Do you have a fever? No. You're asking me this. Something should have been in place if you're checking people's temperature before the vaccine, checking out something. Some proper mechanism should be in place. So if I come to get a vaccine, I can feel confident that you give me the best option. And in that same guideline they give, they tell you based on that, it will determine what the people need.
Exactly.
The best vaccine for that person. So we know we're lacking there as a country. After assessing, you do your screening. And then they got the third point or fourth point under there, educate the patients. And that is where we're lacking as a nation when it comes to the vaccination. We know the vaccinations were released on the experimental use listing.
Exactly.
And if you're using something that is on the experimental use listing, it means that you should be collecting data and following these things to see what will happen. Now, the people in Guyana cannot be confident if you can't get basic information about the vaccine. And if you don't feel comfortable, up to last week, an elderly woman, she's 86, she was saying, Teacher Nima, I'm not taking no vaccine because I have asthma.
Yes.
And look at my age. And they're telling me, that this is how she's expressing herself, they're telling me that I got to get vaccination card to go for my pension. I said, turn up and see if they can turn you back. Because when she explains her medical history, they should have had the right people to explain. Now again, here they're lacking. You're telling people you can't go for the pension, you can't go here, you can't go there without a vaccination card. Why is it that the Ministry of Health didn't get resource personnel for them at these very places telling people don't go? And spend time, let a person interact with those persons who don't have the vaccination card and help them to build more confidence in considering taking these vaccines. An approach like that will tell the nation you got the nation at heart.
Exactly.
So we know that people will go for their pensions. We know that people will go to the banks. We know that people will go to the supermarkets to shop because you got to eat. Because you're aware of that and you know where the population will be, go set up a site there and get a doctor or whoever it is that you have, your resource personnel, to interact with these people. Give them the confidence, answer the questions that the people have, and I think that would help people to consider taking the vaccine. But you come in and push this thing down my throat, not considering that I have a right to choose. You're not providing me an opportunity to choose, but you're telling me that I have to take it. I have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Because they're not thinking.
Yeah, indeed, they are not thinking. And you know, Nima, it is always a point, there's always a point where we must remind our citizen of what the coalition had, the plans that the coalition had in place to ensure that our people, the lives of our citizens, were protected. We had the establishment of the task force, not headed or the entire task force was, politicized. We had a task force with the then Prime Minister, who was chairman of that task force. And we had technical staff from the various ministries, the key ministries, who sat on that task force. Because remember, as politicians, we're decision makers, we're policy makers. So the technical people, they have to guide us, because remember, they're the ones who will be collecting the data, analyzing it, you understand me, and sharing it.
Yeah.
So we had a good system in place that they inherited from us. They told this nation that they had a good plan. They had a better plan than the coalition. Now you came in 1 year after Nima, last night's count, 786 persons died. You understand me? And I think September had the highest month in deaths. And what we're seeing now is that Guyana seems to be COVID-free. And this government is uncaring. And by right, education, you have to engage and educate.
Yeah.
And that is what they're not doing. But they're using the absolute power or the big stick method to force an entire nation to go and take the vaccines by mandatory means, which is wrong.
It is.
Which is wrong. And we are on record saying that we are not against the vaccines, but we believe that better approaches should be used so that you comfort your citizenry, you get them to buy in, because obviously you're reading all sorts of things on social media. You understand me? So people's minds will be wild all over the place.
Yeah.
So what you're having now is that, and this is where I want you to come in, because I want us to open the lines probably in another 5 minutes to take, some calls. But I know that you are a teacher by profession, and you've reminded the citizen. And school reopened on the 6th of September. And the teachers, they too were forced to take the vaccines, or they will be either locked out, or they cannot enter into the school compound. So I know you can represent your colleagues in the teaching profession. What is happening at the moment? Because I know that the union would have taken actions, and all sorts of things were thrown to describe union representatives. So as a teacher, what are some of the concerns? Where are we now? What are some of the concerns of your peers or your colleagues? And where are we now with regards to, the whole reopening of school? What could have been done differently by this regime?
Well, we know that the ministry, or Minister of Health, Education, would have taken our position to have school reopened for the primary and the nursery children, and the vaccination drive for the secondary children. And one of the things I can tell you is that I would have visited all the schools in my constituency when they were instructed to open. And if I was the head teacher for some of them schools, I would not even have left my house. Why are you going into an environment where the compound is not clean? I went to one school, just the passageway, the weed, and all around the school was bush, high grass. After I left and make a lot of noise, they went subsequently, but 2 days after, and cleaned the entire compound. But why are we putting our children through that? Is it worth it? Secondly, sanitization blocks. Many schools you go to, they don't have running water.
Oh my God.
And we're saying during the pandemic that washing of your hands, sanitization is very important. Some schools would have the running water and working toilets. Others, they don't have it. When you talk to our other colleagues out at Georgetown, and even some of the schools right around, in close proximity to Georgetown, they have issues with the washroom. You're putting the children at risk. You're putting the teachers' lives at risk also. Because if you can't have basic sanitization in place, we got issues. Then we have the issues where a number of schools were closed. Why? Because you had positive cases. Teachers would have been leaving their homes, going out to work, trying to make ends meet, trying to do what we can do, use our creative skills to ensure that our children receive the necessary resources, and then we see the blatant disrespect that was meted out to us.
Yeah.
And that is very sad. Only, I think it was day before yesterday, we were in the group talking about a teacher that died as a result of COVID. And it was very sad. And I keep asking my colleagues, is it worth it to have a bunch of flowers? Or is it wise for us to stay at home and take the necessary steps in our safe space to protect us? Our teachers need to be wise, because you're aware that according to the guidelines in COVID, if you're in contact with someone who has COVID, there's 14 days isolation. But we got a situation here where the ministry is opening back schools in 2 days. And you know why that is happening? Because the parents choose to bring out the children, and some teachers choose to go back in the building. That's why you're having that. Now, if everybody should stand up together and say, you know what, 14 days isolation, then the school got to close for 14 days. If no child turns up, if no teachers turn up, the school wouldn't open. And so we have a responsibility The teachers, the parents have a responsibility to think wisely.
Yes.
Power lies in the hands of the people. I think many times, we forget. Power lies in the hands of the people. So if parents decide that we're not sending our children out to an environment that is not safe, so be it. You have to decide what's best for your child. But to take your child and put the child in an environment that is not prepared, not safe for the child, it makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. Like as a teacher, it's got to be very wise. We know our union is there backing us, and we have to make wise choices when it comes to our health.
Yeah, but I need to ask another question, because there are reports, and many persons reach out to me, parents, that is, reached out to me complaining that they were asked by head teachers to, make contributions towards detergents and all manner of things. Nima, as a teacher, isn't it the responsibility of the Ministry of Education to ensure that schools, especially in this critical time, to ensure that schools have the necessary cleaning detergents and so forth available? So what is happening?
Well, like I said, teachers always play they're magical. We always do. We prop up the education system all the time. And so the shortcomings that is there, you don't see it. So teachers know that when they ask parents to assist, they're going to assist. So if ministry is supposed to probably send a cleaning agent on this time and it didn't come, the teachers might try to get on the phone or get to engage the parents to make a donation so that the work can go on. But yet still, all the sacrifices the teachers will make, ever so often, whether it be begging parents for assistance, or whether they themselves going into their pocket and getting the necessary cleaning agent, all of that they will do, you're still being labeled and blamed.
Wow.
As unworthy.
Wow.
Because I can tell you as a teacher, I've made a lot of sacrifice, and I continue to make a lot of sacrifice for my students. I have students who have difficulties with be it the internet, be it accessing certain resources, and I would go into my pocket and do what I have to do to help the child. That's not something that I would want to, walk and sing praises, but I'm saying that those are just simple things that teachers will do to ensure that the child is adequately catered for. And yet still we are disrespected, although we continue to prop up the system and cover the flaws.
Yes, wow.
And that's the reality.
Well, viewers, I am chatting this afternoon with my colleague and friend, the Honorable Nima Flue-Bess, MP, who has parliamentary responsibilities for the East Bank corridors. She would have shared with you where her constituency starts and where it ends. So from Eccles way up to Moblissa on the Linden-Soesdijk Highway. You have heard of some of the issues we have discussed this afternoon. If needs be for, clarity on what was shared, you're free to call 225-0010 or 225-0008 here at Channel 6, so as to pose, your concerns or, if you have questions. So while we wait for a call to come through or your calls to come through, I will now continue the discussion with my sister. Nima, we have approved in the National Assembly funds 10 billion Guyana dollars as flood relief for farmers who were heavily affected. I know for a fact that on the east bank of Demerara, you have more so, Mocha, you have farmers there. You have further up the east bank, even on the highway. So can you share with us whether farmers in these communities were able to benefit from the $10 billion payout as cash grants?
All right, let me start by saying I saw on the 29th of September, I have the article here where they had the caption, "Government has done enough." This is what the agriculture minister tells the flood-affected farmers. When that particular statement came out, I captured it because I received about 15 messages where farmers were saying, "MP, did you see this? MP, did you see this? MP, did you see this?" So I looked at the article and I was reading it through. Now, this minister sat down and spoke about all that the government did and how to distribute things to the farmers. I know. Up to this morning, I called up to them because the people there farm to find out, did you people receive any flood relief money? No, they have not. What have you received? Seeds.
Wow.
The farmers at Mocha have not received any money as yet. They've been receiving seeds also and a few, whether it be duck or fowl or whatever. That is what they've been receiving. So a lot of the farmers, I don't know of any farmers as yet. I don't know if they received it recently, some of the areas, but I don't know any of them as yet on the East Bank that would have received this flood relief money. So when I saw the caption, it had me wondering, what really is the minister? Then he went to talk about they're putting together a database for farmers.
Yes, yes.
I know under the coalition, farmers were registering for some kind of funding through the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes.
Where they were registering large scale, medium scale, and small scale farmers. You want to tell me that information that is in the database, you can't access it, wasn't accessible as a starting point to look at what happens to farmers. All right, then you have the system where you have these officers collecting information for people for the flood relief. People call and ask, who are the officers responsible for this area? I don't know. A lady turned up here, a man turned up there. But if they were being honest and fair, they should have published a list of the names of the persons who are responsible for collecting data, because you say doing a database.
Yes.
Collecting data for the different areas to BEX database. I could say this transparency. But you run in and give somebody 2 chicken or 2 duck or couple seed in a bag. The farmers lost everything in the Mocha Arcade community, everything the duck. Every single thing was underwater. Now when the water come off the land, you bring 2 seed and give me 1 million no income. If farming is the only work I'm doing, I still got to look at plowing or tilling the soil, preparing the soil and all of that. I have to look at that. You ain't give me no financial resources, but you tell me you do enough for me. Because you send 2 seed or 2 duck or 2 chicken. But you do enough for me. Whereas my immediate need as a farmer would have been the financial resources so that I can get about doing what I have to do. It's not that I'm thankful for the 2 seed and the 2 chicken, but the reality is what it is. You giving me 2 seed, 2 chicken and all that, I still got to find money for a little feed. I still got to make, if I lost my pen and thing, I still got to rebuild it. But the most important thing that is needed is a little financial assistance.
Yeah.
You still ain't bring and give me.
But you know, Nima, you know, time is winding down on us here. We have heard, the opposition, have heard, you know, from many dissatisfied farmers who were affected and still was not able to benefit from taxpayer dollars, because we got to let the people know this money is not the PPP money or you know, the pulling it out from the bank account or something to that effect. This is taxpayers' dollars being used as grants to help persons who might have lost, you know, poultry or cash crop during the flood. But you know what? In many other communities, we were told that people who were never, or who never plant, who is not farmers, or who never own a rice field, the millions that they have collected. And you will recall several weeks ago, we heard, just like we heard for the COVID cash grant, this month will make a year since Afran Ali said, you know what? He's going to order the Auditor General to conduct an audit on the COVID cash grant disbursement. Well, several weeks ago, we heard Zulfikar saying that, well, look, he will conduct an audit. So a share audits and audits and audits. But you know what? We will continue to hear the plea and the cries from people while we're waiting for the audits, because 2022 will come and there will be no audits. 2023 will come, no audits. 2024, 2025, because who are we dealing with? We are dealing with a group of people who don't care about the rule of law, who don't care about treating Guyanese fairly, who don't care about seeing Guyanese as one.
Yeah.
And my final point before we bring the curtains down, we heard about this one Guyana. We heard about the corridor of oneness. As a teacher by profession, what is your analysis of this one Guyana being propelled or being propagated, by, that gentleman calling himself the president?
Well, what I would say, at least I grew up knowing, and all of Guyana knowing, what's our motto? We are one people, we are one nation, we are one destiny. I don't know the concept of oneness, what it should entail or what it means, because if I'm to measure it by what I see happening, it simply means that only one set of people will benefit from the resources of Guyana. That's the concept I see, and that's based on moving around in my constituency and interacting with people on the ground. I think they just use the word because they think it sounds good, but in reality, it is not what it is. And when we speak of being a country of for one, everybody should be benefiting from everything, not some people benefit and some benefit, like we see what happens with all the grants that they said they're sharing. We see that same discrimination and all of that taking place, and you're talking about oneness. In my closing remark, I want to say to people, there's a quote by Abraham Lincoln that says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And if we sit down and do nothing, then we can create nothing for the future. But if we get up, we get on the ball, move, work together,
yes,
we're going to create a wonderful future and get rid of what Guyana is dealing with currently, the PPPC administration. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Comrade Nima Flue-Bess. Viewers, there you had it. It is a good note for us to end today's program. It is time we all stand together and work together towards the common good. And what is the common good? For the development of our nation. Viewers, just before I bring the curtain down, I want to repeat and also to remind you that COVID is real. COVID is real. Ensure you sanitize, wash your hands regularly, watch your distance, and wear your mask. With that being said, I want to thank you for joining us here for another program of Facing the Nation. I do look forward to you joining me next week Friday for another edition. May God continue to bless us. May God continue to bless your family, and may God continue to bless our dear land, Guyana. I have been Annette Ferguson, and thank you very much for joining me here this afternoon. Thank you.